myself.
Peace,
Allow me to reintroduce
Power family.
myself.
Peace, family. I think we're live, and we're gonna go ahead and I'm having some little technical difficulties here, but
Throw that music on them. Throw that sound on them.
It's like there's a delay going on over here. Something.
Okay. You got to throw that joint on them. Oh my Lord, he's gone. So we're live, but as you can see, my partner just got clicked off. So we're gonna wait for him. But today is Sunday, the 28th, I think, and the subject that we're going to talk about today is very pivotal. It's very relevant right now. All right, Doc, I was talking to the people because you clicked off.
No, I don't know what happened here. I was saying that with some technical difficulties going on. But peace and power family, Dr. Dennis Winkler back at you again. We're here today, and I'm going to go ahead and let's say get started here. We have a topic today that is really pivotal, really pivotal topic, very serious topic, very sad topic that we will discuss today. I entitled the show Sonya Massey Tragedy, a psychosocial analytical breakdown. What I want to do is say, peace, Queen. I know you already spoke to the people, but I'm going to turn it over to you as you know, as we normally get started. Speak to the people.
Well, I didn't say much. I want to say peace to everyone also, but I also want to this is a very serious subject, and I'm so glad that we're delving into this today. It is a tragedy, and being a Black woman it's disconcerting for me. For the Black community, this continues to happen. So to have this conversation, and let's kind of peel the layers back from a Black-centered space, I think it's very important, and it's pivotal because this is traumatic. We've seen it so much that we can now go on when we hear someone gets killed in their home or however we're being killed by state-sanctioned violence, police, death by cop. So I'm glad we're having this conversation. I'm Queen of B from Black Box Radio. I want you guys to like, share, subscribe this joint. This is something that needs to get out. It needs to get in the algorithm, black up the algorithm. Please subscribe to Black Box Radio. We are a Black-centered multimedia platform. If you're on Black Box Radio, roll over to Dr. Dennis Winkler. You have to get his analysis. Please look at his content, like, share, subscribe to his joint also. We're partners in this. We've come together to have this DHH, this digital healing hour. And so I'm going to give it back to Dr. Dog as we're going in. Dr. Dog, you ready? You muted, bro. There you go. You okay over there?
No, I think my computer has a delay.
You sound
maybe
fine.
I can. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my computer. There was like a delay with my mouse, my cursor, and things actually happening. But yeah, so where do you want to start? I mean, how do you want to tackle this?
Well, it's the start is it. We have a 36-year-old young woman, Sonya Massey, in Illinois, calling with prior mental health issues, calling the police because she felt there was somebody on her property, and she called for help. And doing that, it wasn't an altercation. During that time that the police showed up, and she had a conversation with the 2 cops that showed up. She ends up dead, shot in the face. And so here we are again in her own home, um, being non-threatening. And here we go again with killing Black people, and we move right on. And this has to stop. And we have to talk about the why, and why it keeps happening and why we keep allowing it to happen.
And while
And so,
we keep allow it happen, when you say we, who are you actually speaking about? Who is the
when I
we?
say we, I say as a community, I know we're all over the country, we're all over the world. Africans are everywhere. But I think that when we go on and we continue to move on and just talk about it as if, okay, this too shall pass. This is someone's life. This is a mother. This is a sister. Um, this is a daughter. This is traumatic to a community that you cannot call the people that you pay to protect you, and they somehow come out of this situation and kill you. This can happen to anyone, and we don't feel it until it happens to our own family, our own mother, our own sister, our own daughter, or brother, or whatever. But this is happening, and it can happen to all of us, and we've got to deal with it. So that's all. I'm like, the Black community has to say, listen, enough. What do we?
So how would you identify, whether or not we've listened?
How would I view what? Say that again.
How would you identify whether or not we listen? Because I'm not sure I agree that we haven't listened, that we're not feeling this thing.
No, I didn't say that. I think we are definitely feeling it, but I just see what I'm saying is more of this is happening. I hear people say this is sad, this is bad, but then we see the Olympics is going on. We see that all of these, and I know these are planned events. I'm clear of that, but all of these things are going on, and really a lot of it is our genius. Okay, what America does in the Olympics is it has a lot to do with brown bodies and brown women bodies, and not just America, France. All of these European countries have brown bodies, Canada. And so when I say that is when something happens to one of us that is this malicious, that's just so hurtful that it should be something that we kind of pause and say, listen, status quo, we don't keep doing the same thing. Everything stops until we get some real legislation or some real movement on what just happened. I know it's hard to do, but you cannot change a killer unless you change their space. They won't stop. And we see every few months or this continues to happen because the killing won't stop. And does it have to be your mother? Does it have to be your brother? When do we say, damn it, enough?
Yeah. So I guess I think I understand what you're saying. You're like, it's like we're moving on as if nothing has taken place.
We move to the next thing. We go to work. We buying clothes. We're doing the regular, but we're being killed too. We're being haunted, literally.
So when you saw this, what was your first thoughts? And I guess we can start there, and because there's things that I'm hearing you say, and I'm also curious to, I guess, saying the question again. How would you identify whether or not we have listened, that we are doing what we need to do to fight against this racist system that continues to kill and murder Black bodies?
It's very multi. It's a lot to say on the answer to that, because of the fact that we have to, as Black people, we have to work. We have to go to school. The things that we have to do in society, we're doing just like any other community, but other communities are not going through this ancillary attack. And so, how do we galvanize and stop this? And we have to stop it. There's no one's going to stop it.
Yeah, I think part of the reason why part of the reason why I'm asking this question is because I'm wondering if I even should go here or not. Like, but I'm also curious to how we look at these things, and and I think you're bringing up a perspective. Now, I'm not sure if I agree with the perspective.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I just don't want us as a people to feel like is that one, we're not doing anything as it pertains to this, but even more so, even let's say we're not doing anything. I think the question is, how do we measure whether or not we're doing anything, and are we looking for us to do something that is that's realistic? So I'm hearing the idea of the Olympics, and I'm wondering. So in that case, you are supposing that you're suggesting that maybe the Black Olympians don't continue. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I can't. I don't want to put it in their lap and say, "Listen,
Mm-hmm.
it's you should stop doing what you worked so hard towards." I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying though is that these institutions that are killing us are also the ones feeding us. They're
Mm-hmm.
also the ones that we have to participate in,
Mm-hmm.
and we readily participate when it gives us what we need. But
Mm-hmm.
one day, if this continues, this is going to be your family. This is something that is becoming, and not becoming, it's a part of our society, and it cannot be. So what do we have to do? Because revolution takes drastic change. You
Mm-hmm.
can't continue to contribute to the
Yeah.
same stuff that is hurting you. So at some point there has to be some revolution that takes sacrifice,
And what kind,
and that's huh.
and I think I struggle with that. That because I think most of us who say things, I found myself being really vulnerable, putting myself out there for things that happen in our community. But then I realized that not everybody, many people wasn't really for what we call the work or revolution. And then I also hear us give excuses. I would say when things like, well, you gotta eat, you gotta do this. Like, it's so many excuses in our community for what we are supposing revolution is, or what the objectives that will get us to the goal of revolution. I'm not sure if it's that simple. Anyhow, I'm just using these terms, but nonetheless, I just don't want us again to not have measurable goals, because if we don't measure or quantify exactly what is doing something and what isn't doing a thing, then we'll always feel like we haven't done anything. And I fight against the idea that we aren't doing anything. I would actually argue that we do things within our power. Can there be more? Yes. I also argue against the idea that we don't feel these type of incidents until it happens to our family, because we're sitting here today and we're talking about it today and we're feeling it. And there's many people and
Feel
many
it.
Black people across this country, if not, and even people outside of Black
Other
people,
people
even
black. Yeah, I
that
think we
that
feel it.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think, God, that we're saying we don't feel it. I'm saying that yes, you feel it. I think so outside of our community, other than
Mm-hmm.
black people, think that this is bad. But what the question is every time it happens, that's what we say, this is bad. So how do we then now deal with this situation and eradicate it?
So
Because
there's
we know it's
people.
bad.
So there's people that's fighting for policy, right? There's people. I mean, whether you agree with them or not, right? Whether you
Right.
agree with their approach, there's people who are fighting for us. There's people, including ourselves, that's working for us. There's people doing their part. Now, the thing is, some of us are fighting at the policy level. Do we agree with that? Do we agree with politicians? Do we agree that policy can bring about this change? Do we believe that it's going to take a civil uprising or some upheaval? Is that? I mean, I ultimately think that becomes what many of us are probably saying when we say things like this. So, what will be the indicator for us to say that we're doing a thing? Again, I think many people are doing things. Maybe it's just that we don't believe that what they are doing is enough or going to be effective. again, there's people that's abolitionists out here. There's people out here that's educators. There's policymakers. There's people who advocate for victims. There's people out here that's trying to make money off of people, even
But yet and
and,
still it keeps happening.
and be scrupulous about these things. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
But yet and still what we're saying is, yes, I think, listen, we have freedom fighters, we have activists. This young man is speaking about Benjamin Crump, but in more of a negative way. But we have lawyers who this is their lane. We have advocates for violence against Black people, against just people across the board. But again, within all of that, we still see it occur. So then, yes, we have this, but it's not quelling the behavior. So, like TJ says here, it's just rinse and repeat. Enough is enough is all we say. Then a few weeks later, the same things. So when are we actually going to make moves? And like you're saying, what are the moves? What is the move? I think that it has to be more multi-level. Policy is a piece of the coin. I think we have to revamp evil. You cannot say policing we have to start over in a lot of ways. We know that this is a spinoff from slave patrols. So there is a very negative movement from the inception of policing. And it was for Black bodies, and they're still haunting in that way. So I think we should look at the history of policing and be very honest. We also have to activate on the ground, grassroots. But I think America has to be embarrassed in a lot of ways. When I say the Olympics, if they will not be the number one nations if the Black performers don't perform, baby. If they don't run track, they're not. If half of those Black folks said we're not doing this because you keep killing us, they will look at that. Because what it is we continue to participate. And I really don't want these young people to take this burden on, but I think that it's important for them too, because they have to live in this world too. And I think it's very important. I know they work hard, but it has to be on every level. It has to be on this what we call celebrity level, or this level of what we see on television. It has to be on grassroots. It has to be in classroom. Teachers have to teach the truth, and I don't give a damn what the curriculum is. There has to be activating with our children and telling them the truth. It just has to be a plethora of things, but we have to do all of these things, because if we don't, we're gonna lose. We're losing our people. We're losing our mothers. We're losing our sons. We're losing people for no reason. You should not call a police officer and say, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus," and you kill me. And it's your Jesus.
Yeah, I think this is a very sad thing, right? And I heard you say that, right? But I also think that it clouds the way that we look at these things sometimes. And I promise you, there's people fighting 365 days a year, 52 weeks out of a year, who are fighting this fight. And I think that we have to highlight those people, because if we don't highlight those people, what we continue to do is we recreate the wheel, thinking that those things don't exist. There's many people, and I can include myself in my lane. I do that. I fight this fight every day for my people. Now, I do. I guess there's people who are literally fighting this fight every day. But when these type of things happen, and when they happen and they're highlighted and put before us like this, because this thing happened a while ago, I imagine. But what's happened now is it's garnered the attention of mainstream media. So what happens is it impacts our emotions, and it can be a downer. It can have us feeling very down. But I don't want us to cloud because it will cloud our thoughts and the way that we see things, and we'll believe there's nothing's happening when things are happening. Are things happening enough? It would never be enough when somebody just got murdered from a police officer, a white police officer, or any type of police officer, because all police officers represent the system. I don't care if you're black, you're white, Chinese, any type of Asian. I don't care if you're from the motherland. all police represent this system, especially if they have murdered someone that looks like us or anyone in general or whatever they're carrying out. They're operating to maintain the status quo. Now, I think it starts, and I typically don't take it. I think it starts with all of us, though. You know, I think we can hold. Like people like Sonya Biles, I think her name is. What's her name? The gymnast accountable, Simone Biles, and people like that, and the basketball player, LeBron James, and all these people.
You don't do sports. I see you ain't doing sports at all.
I don't do names. It doesn't matter what the genre is. I might forget your name. I'm just learning your name now. But
what?
You know, I'm just kidding. But yeah, but I think we can hold it accountable. What are we doing on our levels?
That's what it all boils down. Yes.
I listened to something some years ago. I think it was Lupe Fiasco, and he was on a panel with, I think it was Killer Mike, whomever. This was years ago, and what a school teacher got up and he said to Lupe Fiasco, and I think it was Killer Mike, if I recall correctly, that you all have more influence over the students that I teach. And so in other words, we need you to do better. We need you to change what you're doing. We need you to fight the system. We need to stand up against the man. And then Lupe Fiasco responded in a way that I didn't even imagine that he would, because I think he's kind of conscious and so on and so forth. But he suggested that he does not have more influence, and that, hold on one second, Queen, I'm trying to mute your mic because I'm getting too much feedback. So he suggested that they don't have more influence than the teacher. And in fact, I was struggling with this idea in which he said that they didn't have more influence, because we know that they're in mainstream media and they do have influence. But he also wanted them to give up and do things on their levels. And these are few people. These are like hip hop people. But at the same time, he turned it back to say, well, what system are you fighting as a teacher? So those of us who operate in these systems don't even do the thing that we're asking other people to do at these higher levels who have greater things to lose. I'm not saying it's greater and it's better. I'm saying that in our minds and how we've been conditioned in this country, we've been conditioned, and you're talking about maybe thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars and, several millions of dollars. And you think that somehow this person who is an anomaly in our community, if he or she gives this up, that somehow is going to make this great transformational change, but not really looking at the millions of us that operate at more, I guess, average types of incomes and things, and we won't do the very thing that we're asking them to do. We won't buck this system. And I'm not saying we as all of us, but I'm saying especially those who ask those other people to do these things. Now, again, getting back to this conversation, I think I don't want to go too far off, but I do think and I do agree that we all have to do something, and we have to continue to do something. And I also want to highlight that we are doing things. There's too many people in my circles that I know that fight every day for us. And it's on all levels, including police brutality. We have a sister here, Dr. Natasha Pratt Harris, who does it daily, who does research, who goes and, even if you agree or not, try to train police. There's other people who try to, who actually are more abolitionists that say we have to dismantle this system. And they do this fight every day. Then there's brothers and sisters like Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle that are down at Annapolis. And these are just some examples of people I know that are down in Annapolis every day. Then there's even politicians I know, like brother Delegate Kalen Young and people like Senator Corey McCray and different people I've talked to, and I see the bills and things that they're trying to do in that capacity. Then there's people like Reverend Hubert Brown, who's been doing this work for a long time. And I'm saying is, I think we should speak these people's names, because it's not a fact that we don't have people fighting. But many times we'll say that and people won't even know who they should consult with or who they can join with hands with and fight this battle. What you got, Queen? Oh, you on mute, Queen. Yeah, I had to.
You mute me, so I didn't know I was muted. But I think I hear what you're saying. You're absolutely right. We can say these names. This is our community. This is Baltimore community. So what I'm saying is we need an effort. And yes, and that's a grassroots community. And definitely, I think probably every place has somebody fighting. But then we also, the question is, the behavior is still there. It has not quelled it. It has not stopped it. It might have, I don't even know if it slowed it down. Every few months, someone is killed in the house, killed outside, killed by the cops, and they're Black. It might happen to other races. I'm not sure. I'm a Black woman, and this definitely hits home being a Black woman because, we want to be able to call for help. I know I will not. I do not even want to call the police for anything ever. It has to be the last of the last of the last. I don't want any interactions with them. I don't feel that they can save me from anything. I actually feel threatened by their presence. And so, and as this manifests, and I see this what happened to Sister Sonya, it further gets me in a place where I don't want to deal with the police at all. But we should have that opportunity as people in this country. And I think, yes, in this community, we have great names, but there's other communities. Understand that this, what we're talking about today will move around YouTube, will go to other communities that don't know those people. But the process is, how do we quell the behavior for all of us?
Well, I think, again, it's a protracted struggle. Right. And I think that when we look at it any other way, we continue to put ourselves in a disappointed state of being, which I think that it requires us to look at it. And I understand and I empathize and I can relate to the feeling. The feeling I don't want us to have is that we're not doing anything and that we're doomed. This is a protracted struggle. This is a war. And what can happen when things like this happen, it can put us in somewhat depressed states, or depressed states in states where we feel doomed, or we feel like no one's doing anything, and those type of things. And I just don't want us to look at this narrative from that lens when it's not accurate, one. And two, I see Brother Sankofa put here that we need people beyond Baltimore community. And these are examples of people that's doing work worldwide and not even nationally. People are fighting throughout this world.
I believe it.
So, the thing is, the fight is not a fight that's just going to end like that. In fact, the fight, I would say, will continue forever.
Wow.
I just don't, the reality is there's always going to be people out here who are trying to oppress other groups of people.
Yeah.
Now, I think the states of consciousness can change. And we start off this show talking about Sister Massey, who in her mental health condition, and part of the reason why I wanted to do this particular episode is because not many people are questioning his mental health condition. You know, the fact that we are sitting here and diagnosing her. I mean, I'll just be honest. As a psychotherapist, I listened to her and I picked up that something might have not been that there might have been some instability there. I did, but nothing that she did, even in her quote unquote instability, warranted what happened to her.
That behavior, exactly.
Nothing. I've seen people who are having breakdowns and crises that you could probably say, man, that's a dangerous thing going on.
There's a whole video of YouTube of people going after the cop with knives.
And then you can kind of have a debate.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen, and I typically don't even look at a lot of these things, but I have to really say, you know what? I'm going to have to look at these things. You know, but the reality is the force that was used was uncalled for. And again, going back to that, we're questioning our dear sister's mental state, but not too many people. I'm not going to say no one. I'm certain there's people who have done it. But not too many people are in question because they don't want to give him any justification. And by no means am I giving him any justification. But what I am saying, what's going on in his mind is a pathology that is created by this culture, this society that we live in, and now the world that we live in, which has black women. Don't even think about. Her mental health state is not in question. It is not even a part. You can utilize it to see that the only thing you could probably say is that this sister needed some help, some assistance, and it had nothing to do with her being murdered. Not at all. She needed help. She wasn't violent. She wasn't aggressive from what I've seen. But this guy, what do you call that? I think Bobby Wright has a term for it. And I think he called it psychos. What did he call it? So I forgot what he called it, but I have the book here somewhere. But really, it's like a psychosociopathic racial disorder. That's not what he calls it. But he calls it something in that area. I can't recall what he calls it.
And you're speaking on a cop's mental health, right?
Yeah, I'm speaking on his mental health, and
that's a whole other place that we haven't delved into. Wow.
And we have to really understand that this cop is just one example of the society's mental health as it pertains to white people. He's just, it's white culture creates that. White supremacy or white whatever you want to call it. I know we're going to debate the terms. It's a sickness, and I call it an addiction. So the things that he saw, and I without honestly, people can question whether or not this was racism. It's always racism. Because there's nothing that goes on in this country. I'm talking about even what we do to each other that doesn't have anything to do with racism in our conditions. It's racism, classism, and genderism. All of that could be all equated for here.
It's an ism.
Sexism. It's all of that. But racism at the core, even if this guy, and many people don't, if you don't want to really admit it, I've heard some people like Dr. Todd Grande say, this isn't racism. How do you prove that it's racism? So, okay, let's look at this. I think it's more probable that race had some part to do with this. Even if it was conscious or not. But to say, my question is, how do you say that it doesn't have anything to do with it? How do you, with such conviction, say that race doesn't have anything to do with this? I am certain that racism is only one of the isms that had something to do with this. And God, I was taking a elder sister. I was driving her to a location yesterday because she was on her walk, and I said, you need a ride, and she was like, you know what? Let me take that ride. So, as I talked to her, we spoke about what was I saying? I just lost my frame of thought. But yeah. So I don't know, when some Christians I heard are saying, maybe white Christians are saying this guy had a demon in him. That's another way of I guess conceptualizing this situation, because when she said, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus,
it got to him, baby. He couldn't take that.
I don't know what ism that was.
I'm telling you, that was a trigger. That triggered him.
To be fair, and I don't think he needs to be fair, I think he's racist. But up to that point, he was trying to act like a good police officer.
Mm-hmm. We don't
ma'am,
need to have
this and ma'am and that and and she said, "What are you doing? Backing up from that hot water, whatever." I think the other guy said, and she was like, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." He just went into straight, like, I don't know if that happened in Vietnam to him.
He went into killer.
He went into killer mode. So I don't know what exactly the ism was. I don't know if it's some post-traumatic stress syndrome or post-traumatic whatever it happened. He went straight into tactical mode and in lynching mode.
He was in killer mode for sure.
He went straight. It was like he turned into a whole new beast.
Yep.
And all she said, maybe he's the worst kind of atheist or something. I don't know what, or maybe there's some trauma behind what his mama used to say to him, but utilize Jesus or religion. I don't know what it is. I'm just saying a case conceptualization of this would be, perhaps he was abused by religion. I don't know. But I know all of these things on the table, and nobody can. If I conceptualize that race is part of this, that is more likely than not. If I conceptualize that trauma is a part of that, it is more likely than not. So those who are saying that race had nothing to do with this, where do you get your data from? Where do you get your facts from? When all the research shows, shows that that white people, let me say white people and people in general, but white people struggle with really seeing black people in a positive light.
Yeah.
In fact, if they see them as people at all, if they don't even know many times that they see us as subhuman.
Yep.
Racism is pervasive, and it exists even in those who don't truly believe that they're racist.
Wow. And when you spoke about his mental health, I think that triggered a trap because, as Caltais, my brother, said, his mental health is pure evil. Some racists join the police force for the purpose of killing black people. Mm-hmm. I don't know about that, but we see a lot of that happening. I think it's a major problem. And then I look at Sister Shantae. She says, whiteness belongs in the DSMV books. Their pathology and psychology needs to be thoroughly studied. I think that's true. I think that's absolutely true.
Right. And again, I want to make sure we see what we do is we focus our energies on this police. That becomes an issue. And this, and this is what I think more of what you're speaking to. We begin to galvanize around putting this bastard in jail.
Yeah.
Where he belongs, probably underneath it and all types of stuff, right?
But not the reason.
But
behaviors.
So we believe that somehow is going to stop a thing. when
Yeah.
this system is just going to create another one. Like baby kids, we don't die, we multiply, right? So we believe that this justice is really against individuals and maybe even the police force, when this whole system and all the systems, for those who say what's a system, I'm talking about all these things, all these moving pieces, all these connected things that's going on that runs this society
Yep.
and the people who live in it, the culture, the institutions, the education, the training, the religions. I'm saying all of these systems. You know
They
what
all
a system is. All
they
of
all
these systems, in the system of racism as well, which teaches you an ideology that black people, let's keep it clear, let's keep it 100, let's keep it funky, are at the bottom in your mind, and you truly believe it. And it's not just white people who believe this.
Black
There's
believe.
people all across the spectrum that believe this, including ourselves.
Yep.
So what I'm saying is this system has done a job on us.
Yeah.
And I'm saying it's definitely done a job on white folks because they have no idea who we are. And they have no, and what they do is they look for things to affirm. This guy said, that bitch is crazy. Excuse my language.
That's what he said.
He was, I don't know what he was doing. I don't know if he was trying to justify. I don't know what he was trying to do. All I know is his ass is crazy. And we need
But,
to
what
turn
happened
around
was,
and
what
look
we
at
have to-
that.
But what we have to stay also, is that when he went in, the whole time the body camera was off. When he started to make those statements after he killed her, he turned it on. So this shows strategic movement of what he went in there to do. We see that. So the psychopathic racial personality. So we see that, then he starts to talk about her, and she triggered him, and she came after him with a pot of boiling water. And he knew he didn't have his camera on. So whatever he said, that's what happened. But the other guy put on his camera on from the beginning. That's who taped the situation.
Yeah. And
So
how do you
we have
trust?
a problem in policing too with these cameras. They should not
absolutely.
have the choice to turn them on and off.
And the thing is, my nephew was set up by an officer here in Baltimore. Not murdered. He was set up and they planted a gun on him. You know what I mean? He went to jail for several months. He actually got found guilty until he said, nah, I'm not taking that charge. So we as a family put together funds and appealed it. And then some people called him and then they actually they prosecuted him. But the fact that we have criminals trying to enforce laws is problematic. The fact that somehow many of us believe in the values of this so-called country that were created by criminals themselves is problematic. And I'm not saying they don't sound good. I'm not saying they don't feel good. I'm not saying that in a pure sense they can't work for people. But understand that there's rules that they play by and there's rules that they want you to play by. They want you to play by the rules that they put out there before you. Those rules are for you people, not us. They're for you and your kind. And it doesn't matter. Kind is not just the race. And that becomes part of the problem, even if we get stuck on the race piece as well. But race is definitely a piece. Poor people, oppressed people, women, all types of people are being abused by this dirty, rotten system, by this society, by this country, by its culture, and by these people that we believe are leaders. So my thing is, and what I'm suggesting, argue, and maintain is the real work happens and it has to happen at the systemic level, at the systems level. The system itself, as many people have said, the system was created to do exactly what it's doing. And
Yeah.
that right there gets lost. And it sounds like some old fancy way of saying things. No, that's not, no, we really have to really look at that. There's research around systems thinking. There's research around systems will only produce what they've intended to produce.
Yeah.
The problem is we keep trying to change people and not systems. We're not going to change the society until we change the system. There's no way to do it. There's no way to end homelessness until you change the way that the system that produces homelessness. You can't continue to create homeless shelters and think that that's going to get rid of homelessness. But when you got 1,000,001 houses in East Baltimore, but what you won't fix them up and allow people to live in them and stay in them. The system creates these things. The system creates criminals. And I think that many of us really thought that people sound crazy when they say these things. But when you really begin to dig in and look, you realize that people aren't crazy when they say things like the system is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. And I'm saying, yeah, go ahead, Sister Queen.
You're right. It's doing exactly what is the intentionality of this system is what you see happening on a daily, monthly basis. And we tend to have some type of relationship with certain systems. We have relationship with the church or Christianity. We have relationships with the police when we need them, and the justice system when it's working for us. But understand the justice system has an intentional effort to not be about justice. And so when we see it act in the way in which it's intended, then we say, oh, this is bad. But we think that he should go to jail, and that would make us feel better. And it shouldn't make us feel better. Because in 2 more months, we're going to be back here. Not even 2 months. In a month, we're going to be right back here talking about the next victim. Because the system is doing what it should do. And it's making these criminals. This guy's a criminal. And I think with cops, it's something in our mindset that they are good people, that they will take care of us, that they will foster our safety. And as we see, they're the ones doing the killing.
But I think if we really look at that, people think that for a good reason, though.
What's that reason?
Because they do that. They do that as well. Yeah, so I think that when we have these conversations,
the
we have to be
inverse
real.
is the kill too. You got to have the inverse.
So family, we put the link in the Queen put it in there as well. We put the link in the chat in case you all want to come in and join this conversation. But the reality is, you have called the police before, not you, Queen, but I'm talking about people. The police have pulled over and helped change a tire, and Officer Friendly did come to the school, and the police has helped you in some ways, because we understand that these are individuals again. And I think that, again, as Dr. Amos Wilson speaks about, we have to be very clear that there's a difference between individuals who mean good and the systems that we operate within. Because to some degree, we are all agents of the system. Now, what system are you perpetuating? What system are we perpetuating? What are we perpetuating? Like, again, going back to the Lupe Fiasco's response, rappers are not the only ones perpetuating ignorance and violence on our people, because rappers are, though, because they're getting paid to spew violence. Police are getting paid to maintain the status quo. Police are getting paid to even murder people.
Yeah.
Teachers are getting paid to miseducate people.
Yep.
People who come on social media are getting paid by YouTube and other platforms to miseducate, mislead, misguide, and cause chaos. Candace Owens is getting paid a good dime to just to throw rocks and hide her hands.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so their behaviors are real witchcraft, but I digress. Shanta Watson says.
And she says the behaviors are real witchcraft, but I digress. Yeah.
The problem with the DSM-5, Shanta said whiteness belongs in the DSM-5
Yeah.
books. Their pathology and
Most of us don't even
psychology
know what that
needs to
is.
be
What is
thoroughly studied. The problem with the DSM-5 is that the whole book is still it's part of their system.
that? Ooh.
And again, there's plenty of things I can go in. We can go into their books and say exactly support why they themselves are psychopaths in a sense, in a group level. On a group level, I think we always got to be clear to think group, because if we don't clearly say group, what's going to come to our minds is I got a good white friend. So
Mm-hmm.
keep the group. See, I think we have to be honest that like when we say they, somebody's going to say my cousin's a police officer. No. See, again, we have to keep it clear that not every police officer is this guy, but
Yep.
every police officer is put there to maintain the status quo. But all of us are put in all the positions that we're in to maintain the status quo.
That's true.
So we all have the responsibility to fight the fight, to change,
Mm.
to disrupt this system. Last show we were talking about, what we're going to do without the system. Some came up. The fact is, we know this system ain't working for us, but there's a sense of familiarity that's here that we have some semblance of security
Yep.
or familiarity or what have
Yep.
you. The reality is there's going to have to take a level of disruption and chaos
Yep.
to bring about something more human.
That is the only way. That's what I'm saying. Revolution has to be on every level before there's definitely some change. We cannot expect it from, I'll say, our celebrities or our Olympians or our teachers in the hospital, our hospital workers. Everyone has to say enough and ask for accountability and make accountability happen, and then change the rules. The folks who have the power have the rules and the tools, and we see that they're able to manipulate them. They're able to do anything to anybody at any time. But when it comes to them or applying to them, then they even call out the system. I see Donald Trump calling the system out. It's unfair. Because criminals don't like rules.
Absolutely. They're above the law, right?
Above the law. And I don't know, these police though, it's just too much. And being a Black woman, this is disconcerting. It's scary.
It is.
It's absolutely scary. Like I cannot have a relationship with the police at all. I mean, I feel when they come around, I don't want them to be around me. I'm not calling them. If I call them, the world is ending, or it's really catastrophic. I'm not calling them if I see a problem. No. I'm not calling them for anything, because it seems that we call for help and we become the haunted. And I think too, and I see in community, and I'm not saying this to attack Black men, but we have to Black men has to galvanize around Black women also. We have to protect ourselves, but we need Black men to protect us too. And we can't be fighting amongst each other, because we both are being haunted. When you look at it, next week it's a Black man. The week after is a Black woman. It's a Black child. It's happening over and over and over. It's happening in schools. They're abusing peace officers in school, abusing children. This is it's a sickness. And racism to me is mental health. It's a mental health anomaly, and we see the manifestation of the behaviors in our systems.
So when you say Black men, I'm assuming that you have something that you want to speak to as it relates to what you feel like Black men should be doing. I heard so the assumption is I'm assuming that you feel like black men aren't stepping up and doing what they need to do in the community or what have you. So I'm not sure if that's accurate, and if
No,
that's the
I'm not
case.
saying that they aren't. I think that I hear, in on YouTube and in this digital media, I hear a lot of dissension and a lot of things between black women and black men. And I think that we're not understanding that we're both in the same boat in many ways. And and what the system does is give some of us more opportunity or let us digest more spaces and others don't. And then it becomes this chaos between each other. But we have to look past that and
So
look at our commonalities as being black people, and protect each other. Black women should have some level of protection for black men also. I think that we have to instill that all the time. A concerted amount of consideration for each other and our trauma, and understand the behaviors that some black women is trauma, and the behaviors of black men is trauma. And so the grace that it takes for us to stay together and protect each other is important. And I think that breakdown allows these white men or white officers to come in and abuse us.
So because the black man is not in the household, is that what you're saying? I'm trying to follow you
Well,
here.
not the black men in the household, because it could black men, women are very powerful. They can handle a household, I think, but I think we should have black men in the household. I'm not saying they should not be, but if you're not in the household, hold that woman down. Hold the women down in your family, the women in your community, the women that you see of single mothers. Those black men, hold them down. The single mothers that see black men who are single fathers, hold them down. Support each other. We have to find a way to have some solidarity.
Right. I'm hearing you say this. And I'm just because I didn't know that you said black men initially, and now you're saying black women is in addition. I'm just curious to what is that you believe black men can do to fulfill what is needed.
I think that if black men have to be more community centered, and that they are the stalwarts in our community,
The
and
who?
that when their presence, all children they should have their eye on all children, including theirs. They should have their eyes on all women, including their women or their families. I just when I say that, I'm saying that we have to think more communal, and that protection comes from people who actually communicate and have solidarity. And if we're fighting and we're talking about you doing this, or you got the better job, or you think you bet, all of these things, it keeps us from our commonality and protecting each other, because we're being haunted in this society,
Okay.
literally, and we act as if it's not happening. Yeah. Michelle. Thank you, Michelle. Michelle says she dumped the boiling water, turned on the faucet, and started to fill up the pot again. Items on the counter block visual or her dumping the water, but can hear it. The pot was the only thing steaming. And I understand. I don't want to play that video because I think it's traumatic. But people, what we're looking at, what actually happened. We said, Miss Michelle, that she was non-threatening. I don't care if the water was boiling. It was still non-threatening to this guy. When what I saw, the trigger was when she said, I rebuke you. And that's why he got into this behavior, the stance, and the gun came out of the holster, and it got real nasty quick. But whatever she did not deserve what happened here. Don't we agree to that, Doc?
Yeah, but I understand the importance of what Michelle is saying here, though, because the narrative that's going around in social media or media is that and even the narrative is that even someone saying she flung water at him.
Oh, like
So I think
she
was
triggered
she
him. Yeah.
well, literally that she took a shot at him with water. So, and even the narrative that he's created is this idea that she flung the water at him and it
She
came
was
to her
coming
feet
after him with boiling water,
at
that
the
he didn't want
at
to
the
take
feet.
no boiling
So
water.
right,
Yes.
and some people are actually continuing that narrative, although we don't see the same thing in the film. We don't
Yes.
see that. So, but that is dominant narrative, although no one saw that. And what we did see, it didn't seem that she flung water at him or that, and it does seem like what Michelle is saying here is probable because she did. I think she turned the faucet on or what have you, and I'm not sure if we missed anything. If there's anything was omitted from the tape, but from what I saw, it seems more in accord with what Michelle is saying here. And
She's correct.
if that is the case, then I think that is something that needs, that does deserve some highlighting.
I think that's going to come out in his case. Like you said that she was coming for you on camera, but then when you look at the actual film, as you said, the water was gone, the pot was steaming, and they asked her to turn it off. So it was in their direction saying, "Can you please turn that pot off?" So I mean, I think that's going to come. A lot's going to come. We got a long time with this case. We're at the beginning. It's not going to be pretty. I think that in the court of public opinion, he's going to have some issues. I don't know what's going to, even if he goes to jail, it won't bring her life back, and this behavior has to stop. We got to go after the behavior, not their jail and their systems of jailing people, because it doesn't stop the behavior.
Say it again. We have to do what again?
I said we have to really look at the system, because even him going to jail or whatever justice we think going to trial is going to be, and how they're going to make fodder and all of this media fodder from his trial. If he goes to jail and if he doesn't, it does not bring her back, but it also doesn't stop the behavior. Because while he's in jail and while this happens, we're going to see this again. If we don't deal with the system and why this is happening. That's the problem.
Yeah.
We can drop name after name. George Floyd, the jogger who was running, and these weren't even police officers. These were former police officers. I mean, these things are happening in there, and it's almost like it more and more heinous. It's scary.
Yeah. I'm not sure if they get more heinous, because all of them are heinous.
That's true.
But I think the accumulation of them become more, they impact us more. I think they tear away from our, they rip away at us. They deposit more trauma, and social media in a way has brought these things to another level of awareness. I do remember, and I have to be honest, a time where I felt less threatened by officers. Although I grew up in a neighborhood when I was younger where there was some threat there, but as an adult, it at some point it wasn't as much of a threat in my conscious mind.
Why do you think that, as a black man, that you could foster that thought?
Foster which one?
That you don't feel threatened per se.
No, I do. I said there was a time where I felt less threatened.
Well, less threatened. How do you think that you came to that less threatening?
So I'm not. So less threatened. I'll just be clear. Doesn't mean that I didn't feel a threat.
Got it.
So, but now, due to social media and these things being highlighted, these murders, these killings being highlighted, there's a certain level of trauma, I would say, that collective trauma that we have as Black African people in this country and worldwide even, but specifically in this country, some countries don't have their officers don't carry guns like that, but they still beat them up with their batons and all those type of things. But I'm going to tell you when it started to heighten for me even more. So I've never felt totally safe, but I did feel safer. When it started to heighten for me is when George Floyd. Oh, George Floyd. No, not George Floyd. Way back before that. Before then. Not Trayvon Martin, but then right after Trayvon Martin, Ferguson, and then Baltimore.
Michael Brown, Freddie Gray.
Yeah, and seeing these murders at least twice a year, if not more. I'm saying we know more is happening, but what we see come to the masses, and so many people in Baltimore have been victims of police brutality that we don't see, and all across this country, right? That we don't see, but the reality is we see it more. So what it has done to me is heighten my level of alertness about it. Mm-hmm. So that's what I mean. It's not that it wasn't somewhat of a threat before. I've seen literally in front of my face police officers violate black men. I'm talking about as a child during the the war, quote unquote, the war on drugs, the crack era, where they were just violating black men. And in some sense, what that could have meant to me at that point in time was, as long as I don't do that, I'm okay. Because I've never had an incident in my mind that was violent until I had to really, and this is the way I was thinking, until I really had to think back. And I was sitting on my friend's steps, waiting for him to come outside. I was a young man, and two police officers walking the beat came over to the steps and said, "This is a drug-free zone." And I'm really like a little boy. I'm gonna say, at that point, I don't even think I was out of elementary school. I think I was in elementary school. And he was like, "This is a drug-free zone." I'm innocently waiting there for my friend to come outside, and I didn't understand what he was saying. This is a drug-free zone. I don't sell drugs. I'm like, okay, no, I'm just waiting for my friend to come out. And then they said, well, no, this is a drug-free zone. And I can't recall exactly what he said, but he was like, if you don't move, in other words, I'm going to get locked up. Because I'm sitting there, and as a little child, and he became very, in some way, aggressive in a manner. Not like he didn't touch me, anything like that, but the way that he phrased it was like, you better move. And all I was doing as a child is waiting for my friend. And that might not seem violent, but that is violent. And I had to think about that, because that deposit things in you. And that's a microaggression. But we're talking about, in this case, we're talking about overt aggression. So aggression happens on all levels. But nonetheless, my mind at that point was saying, if I don't do this, they won't do this to me. In my mind as a child, as a child possibly. But growing up as a young man, I would even like have some interaction with police officers who pulled me over because I was speeding or ran a light or something like that. I didn't feel inside of my body, though, that they were going to kill me. But since probably 2013, as social media has become a bigger thing in these being caught on camera and shared widely, I feel it so viscerally now. If I see a police officer, I don't trust them. Yeah. If I will be concerned about calling them. I will be concerned if I get pulled over. I would think about whether or not I want to pull over. Whether, all these things will come in my mind. Should I go to the police department?
Yes.
And let him follow me to the police department before I pull over. So just think about that. The same system that you're afraid will murder you, you also feel like a need to depend on it to protect you.
That's scary.
That is what happens in, let's say, the worst kind of abusive relationships on an individual level, where your parent, let's give an example. The system represents the parent. When your parent is the same, you're looking for protection from the very person that's abusing you. It causes an unresolved level of trauma. which creates all types of issues in relationships and in personality disorders. Using the DSM as the sister was speaking to earlier, I was
What's the
looking for
DSM? Y'all speaking a research paper.
so
What is DSM?
the DSM-5
Okay.
the what does it say here?
Diagnostic criteria manual. I
Oh
guess.
well,
I
this
don't
is the desk manual, but it's the diagnostic and statistical manual for mental health disorders.
know. Oh, for mental health
Right,
disorders. See, I
right,
got to break that down, Sister
right.
Shantae. Y'all come with this DSM and all of that. That sounds like a top television show.
So what you call that is a traumatic type of response, or in your body, right? So it's called hyper awareness.
Mm.
So when you're hyper aware, you might also become hyper. So that's called hyper vigilance, and then you become hyper alert, and then you might have I forgot what it's called now, but it's like a hyper response to it. So that even the sister, in what they want to call this sister, quote unquote, crazy, she was sane enough to know that you were a danger when she first came to the door. She said, "Don't hurt me." She said this at the very beginning.
When they open the door, don't hurt me. Yeah.
Yes, and nothing. So she was sane enough to know that they had the potential to hurt her, and they're like, yeah, because and we also got to know that police officers are also. And I'm not giving them no pass at all. Don't take this as a pass, but I'm just showing you how systems work. Police officers are now looking at these things, and now the more these type of things happen, they feel more. They're also like, okay, people who
They feel
cause
the same.
trauma,
They
yeah,
feel it.
people who cause trauma also become traumatized.
Yeah.
If you shoot somebody, it's not just the victim that becomes traumatized, it's the person who is shooting you. So they have this certain level of aggression in them. Police officers are out here in these streets every day dealing with unresolved mental health disorders and all these. I'm talking about on top of the racism, which is a major trauma to white people. Look, racism is not a black thing. Racism is a white thing. You know. So
Wow.
so what I'm saying is to pathologize us due to what we're receiving becomes problematic. And that's the problem with many forms of individual psychotherapy and so many other things. We keep turning it back to the people who are being oppressed, abused, traumatized. And it doesn't say that it doesn't take for us to also do some work on our part to get out of the way, or get our hands out of the lion's mouth, or create structure, build, do things collectively to destroy and renew this system. You know, it does take that, you know, but I also think that it's going to require some time. It's going to require some thinking. It's going to require us to do the work on ourselves before all of us. Go ahead, Queen. I know I've been rambling.
No, I totally agree with you. Racism is the ingredient that makes it all that triggers all of these behaviors that are negative. We know this. And I hear
Oh,
so many people talk about mental health, and mental health now becomes the basis for everything. And cops should be trained in mental health. But what about training their humanity?
that's part of mental health.
Yeah, I mean, like, what is it that makes a man yell at a woman like that? What
His,
is it that dehumanizes a woman who's
mhm.
asking for help, who's actually ducked behind the counter?
Something in
Um,
him.
yeah, I mean, so if you're that triggered and you could shoot a woman in the face and then tell her before you do it, I'm going to shoot you in the effing face.
Hmm.
There's a level of barbar- it's
Excuse me.
barbaric. I
Yes.
mean, why are we? How does it get here? That's what I'm saying. How did he get there? And so I understand the cops should be trained, but these are just people, and we give them a lot of the benefit of the doubt as if
These are just people.
they're people. They're unique. I think we think they're uniquely honest. They're
Hmm.
uniquely good. They are there to help.
what
They
do
are
you mean?
performing a
So
job they're being paid for.
what are you saying about the training part though?
I think the training should have more than just mental health. We have to do something with breaking down the, the the police to a space out of where it started with the slave patrol and the history of policing. I think it needs to be revamped, totally redone. And if
Mm-hmm.
we get guns out of this society, then the police I think, could be more humane. But if everyone has a gun,
Mm-hmm.
then they have to be scared.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're human too. I get it. So, but this type of behavior that I saw on this recording was barbaric and very preemptive.
Mm-hmm.
And you said he has mental illness, but I agree because he has a problem, and it shows he has a problem. 6 jobs in 4 years, dishonorable, discharged out of the service. This guy is. How does he get a job as a police officer and he couldn't make it in the service? This
But
is
is
the thing that I don't think black people, if that happened to a black man, he would get a job as a police officer.
let me let's look at this a bit. Let's look at this a bit. So mental illness, right,
Right.
is supposed to be a deviation from the norm.
Hmm.
But I'm telling you, the type of mental illness that he has is the norm.
It's the norm. Yes.
Yes. So I'm not utilizing. So it's not acknowledging books like this because there's no deviation. This is what the society creates.
Yes. It's creative.
Because I am saying whether or not people act on their behaviors in the way that he does, but these feelings that he has inside of him are in many people, if not most people, especially. He's an extreme case. He's a police officer who has a gun
Yeah.
and who sees black people, and he goes into black neighborhoods and he's listening to all types of stuff. What was this in Chicago? Springfield, Illinois.
Springfield, Illinois.
Yeah. So, and I don't know what type of media he listens to,
Yeah.
but a lot of times, even if you go into our communities, I'm talking about even us, we can go in there with the greatest intent. And when we start doing the work in there, see, because we think the work is easier than what we think it is. People told you it was working. Somehow we think that we're going to go in there and change the conditions, and we don't really know what we're getting ourselves in for. And I'm suggesting that these cops, police officers, whatever you want to call them, do the same thing.
Yep.
And whenever racist or racial biases or the ones they thought they didn't have, they start to spring up inside of them. Because they begin, if they didn't think or want to believe what dad was saying about niggas, excuse my language, when they were young, and they want to go and help the niggas, excuse my language, when they get in those streets, they begin to see some of the worst oppressive conditions and iterations that come about as a result. So then it starts to, in their pseudoscientific way of looking at the world, begins to justify and affirm that black people are this way and they're less than this and less than that. Look at what they're doing and so on and so forth. So they don't, the people they're supposed to be serving, they see as
animals.
I ain't gotta say it. So yes. So this is the thing where their own ignorance has him doing things like this. And in fact, I think if I didn't say it earlier, he really felt justified in the moment.
Did you hear his response after it happened? Of course he felt justified. He said, don't even, it's a headshot. Don't even administer CPR. She was coming and said, he's coming at me with a ball of water. I wasn't taking any water today. That's what he said.
So an officer that's not willing to take water and the only weapon he has to use is a gun is not a person that should be an officer at all.
Huh.
I mean, you've signed up for this, buddy. You signed up to protect and serve, supposedly.
That's what
But
kills me. They
but
sign
in
up for
your
this job, but they say they're scared of it.
but
Why
you
you
know
do it?
that you didn't sign up for protect and serve.
Yep.
Because if you were to sign up to protect and serve, you would realize, just like those people realized when they those the homeland, what's the people who was around Trump the other day? What do they call
I
them?
don't know.
Secret Service.
Oh, when he
This
cut
this
his ear.
the Secret Service showed you what protect and serve looks like. When whatever happened to his ear, I don't know what happened there.
It
But
got
when
cut,
they thought projectiles were coming at the quote unquote former president,
and they covered
and
him.
and they covered him.
Hmm.
They put their bodies in the way of fire to protect and serve this guy.
Yeah.
They signed up to do that. So similarly, officers are supposedly signed to protect and serve. And you tell me, if they could take a bullet for this president, they can't. You can't take a little hot water from a sister.
You better say it.
You know, so
Take
it's
that
BS.
water.
It's BS.
It is.
It's BS, and you know you didn't sign up for it. You signed up for a paycheck, and you also signed up because it
And the
gives you a little
benefits.
power and
The power, the benefits. Yeah, don't forget
and,
the benefits. Yeah.
an ego trip, and it serves your
Absolutely.
psychosocial pathic way of understanding and seeing the world. And it's again, it's not just him. It's not about him. He's just what one of my mentors will say is an example of what's going on a greater level. He's just one example. We have to be clear that these examples are throughout, and many of them are ignorant and don't even realize that they have this beast that we saw happen when she rebuked it in them until the time comes. Even some of them don't even realize it.
Absolutely.
So that is the scary part of it,
Yes.
because a lot of things that they say what goes in you will come out.
But that's them Jesus. That's your Jesus.
What
How
goes
you?
it ain't got nothing to do with Jesus. I mean, it might have something to do with Jesus. He could have been abused as a child. His mother could have used Jesus against him, but also that black core piece of that lady being a black woman. I mean, it could have, of course, I said that earlier, the whole Jesus piece.
Yeah.
But this guy seen her as inferior and himself as superior.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Conscious.
He told her before, I will. He said he will effing shoot her in the face. He said it. He told her. It's not like this is. I'm playing with you. I can kill you, and not only I did it, and justify it by you coming after me with water.
Hold up. So Shanta says, yep, I agree, Doc. This is where I struggle while continue my education in psychology. I'd like to hear more about that, Shanta. I mean, even if you want to come on and talk about that, we put the link in the chat. But how long? What time is it now?
Shantae. Yeah, we about to get out of here, but Shantae, that's Shantae. But yeah, she could come in the chat. We can continue a little longer. But I wanted to Miss Michelle, who started the steam and water, and now she comes back and says I should say I grew up in a county over from where the KKK started. I knew kids whose parents burned cross at meetings. I will never vote Democrat. You see how these systems come to play? Like, we think the system of Democrat or Republican is different. Like, one is different than the other. They're both a problem.
So hold on. What are you saying Michelle is saying? You said she said one thing, now
she's saying because she grew up in a county and the KKK started, she said I will never vote Democrat. I don't really know what that means. But I just said when it comes to systems, it amazes me how we believe in one system and maybe not believe in another. When they all are the same, they're all intentionally to hurt, to harm. They're set up in a way to harm. I don't care if it's Democrat, Republican, Independent, 2 foot, whatever. It's all the same. So to me, and I can't say that she should believe that.
I think distinguishing between systems and the people is important in all these cases. So there's people within these systems that mean well. But the problem is that the systems themselves are created in the way that prevents it, because you have to go with the status quo. And anytime you step out of order, there's a repercussion that comes about.
Yes.
So it's many people in these systems that, and I think I want to make this clear whenever we're talking, because people confuse good-hearted, meaning people with the system. So
Yes.
sometimes we begin to demonize people who mean well
But it's the system.
rather than the system, and also sometimes we overlook the people that don't mean well because they're agents of the system, intentional agents of the system.
Yeah.
So I think we have to differentiate between these things and look at them in a more nuanced manner. And even like a show like this, we can't do this, but it's a launching pad or a starting point to begin to look at things in more nuanced ways and realize that people are not necessarily evil. Not all people, not all politicians, not all police officers, even not all
I
nobody.
agree. I agree.
But that causes the confusion. But if
Yes.
we highlight that those people are serving in these systems that mean us harm,
Being done.
and some of them truly want to keep the system going as it is without any disruption, any change, because it serves them as well to some degree. And there's people in this system that means well, that want to change the system, but there's a lot of work to do it. I mean, because some people would say, so instead of disrupting it, why not get more black police officers in the system?
It's not going to work. It's the
So,
system.
I think that fight will go on, or what have you. But let me see. Michelle says, I see that the
The moment
moment.
anyone outside the South hears my accent, they assume they are better than me. They treat me like an idiot. I'm I'm lesser than. Wow.
I mean, these things are real.
Very real.
Shantae, you say, right? You know Shantae?
I do. I
Okay.
do. Sister, I think you know Sister Shante too. Yeah. Good sister.
Look, the name is
But
Shantae. You
it's
gotta use
Shante.
that. You gotta see the whole A on there. It's a A.
Yeah, I called her Shanta too until she corrected me. It's Shante.
Oh, so I felt that, but I felt whatever she did to you through you at me.
That's
It's
right.
like
I had to extend it to you, bro. For
I
sure.
felt it.
For
Shantae,
sure.
you gave it to her, huh?
Yeah. Not
But
really.
go.
She just made me understand because I can understand how people say Shanta, but it's Shante. But this conversation is a conversation that's nuanced, is multi-layered, but I hope we've been able to kind of explain that we live in a very derelict system, and that system takes good people and shake them into and make them weak and barbaric and makes them so many things, and some of them are agents of it. So even though we want this guy to go to jail, we want him to get whatever happens to him, yes, but the system is going to make another one of him. Is that what I'm getting from you, Don? I'm trying to kind of surmise what you said.
Yeah, the system is going to create not just another one of him. I am suggesting, arguing, and maintain that it's a lot of him there already,
Yeah, that's present.
and
Yes.
and that is inside of many people and across groups of people. One of my mentors, one of my teachers, one of my professors, Dr. Marion Stanton, said that white people, like, no, let's leave it to bring this to black people. Black people have been taught, black people don't kill white people, quote unquote, because they haven't been taught to kill them. So, but everybody's been taught to kill black folk, you know,
Mm,
you know,
wow.
um,
Wow.
including including us. And I
Wow.
know
So,
again that most people kill the people that they of their group and all that type of thing. I know that those statistics and all those type of things, but there is also reality that black people have been, especially black Americans at this point in history, have been ha, the world, the society, and even the world has been conditioned to see us as less than. And so when you are less than, and you are malice, and you are looked at as a thorn in society, then you are disposable.
all day.
Yeah.
We see it
They
all the
see us
time.
less than the dogs. They see us less than the dogs. They see us less than the whales. They see us less than all the animals they fight for. Well, in
Yeah,
fact, in those, it's just a fact.
it's a fact.
Whether or not they do it consciously or not. And I'm saying again, I'm talking about collectively. There's a collective consciousness that sees black people as inferior, subhuman, if human at all.
Oh, well, and
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 what do
and
you do
and
with that?
what do we do with that? But also, I also what in this whole story, which amazes me, is how do these people get these type of jobs with this much power when you have shown that you are not very good at working? You get a dishonorable discharge from the military. You've been in 6 jobs in 4 years. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so you're having issues, and you're
Mm-hmm.
still able to be in society.
Mm-hmm.
Police office their training is less than a beautician.
I
They put them
mean,
out. Yeah,
I, I
you go to
mean,
beauty
hold
school
on,
longer
hold on,
than
hold on,
you.
hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on.
Yeah.
We can't I don't like the analogy.
Well, what I'm saying
But
is they're not getting a
beauticians,
lot of
I
training
mean,
on the street.
beauticians have a lot of training. That's why I don't like the analogy.
Well, I'm
Um,
saying that they
but
schooling. The
yeah,
schooling for a police
right.
officer is less than a beauty
I
school,
I
and I don't
don't
think
do
anything is
don't do
wrong
my
with beauty
beauticians
school.
don't do my beauticians like that though,
No,
because
it's
they
not an attack on
no,
beauticians.
no. I'm just saying, like uh, their training is less than. It's not even nowhere probably near it. So that's why I'm saying I don't like the analogy. It's like a
Well, it's no,
beautician
they
has to
have
go through a
it's
lot
a
of
low
training.
training for police officers, a
Yes.
very low amount of training. They go through academy very quickly and they're on the
Mm-hmm.
streets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this guy has shown that he had issues. How did he
Mm-hmm.
even get this job? But I think if this was a black man, he would not be able to get on the police force with being a dishonorable discharge from the military and having the problems that this young man has had.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
even the rules in society don't apply the same.
See, the rules don't even again the rules don't, like you saying, they don't matter per se, and that's why people saying this equal and just system. And the reality is the research supports that it's not about even the system. The system it doesn't equate for racism. It doesn't equate for favoritism. It doesn't equate for um, all what is it called when you
Nepotism.
nepotism and all these other
Yeah,
things. It doesn't
that's
equate
what
for
they bring to the table.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a human thing.
It
Yeah.
doesn't equate for these things.
Yes.
Because you could set it up all fair as you want, seemingly all things equal, but that becomes a system that doesn't have doesn't what is it called? What's the term I'm looking for? When it doesn't equate or it doesn't looking for a better term, but
It doesn't adjust for racism. It doesn't adjust for it is a system. People bring in the nepotism. People bring in the favoritism. People bring in the likeism. That is what people are carding in. Is that what you're saying? Or am I wrong?
well, that is true, right? People are taught these things through various systems. But
Yes.
even if you so when we look at this thing, well, the system is equal, is fair,
No.
but it doesn't equate for these ideologies that are systematically indoctrinated inside of people, which are also systems.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and you can create a organization tomorrow, and you can say, well, all people can apply and so on and so forth. And if you have someone there who's, I mean, even black people, but even more so white folks, if they start to look at the research is there, if they start looking at names and stuff and figuring out who they will hire and who they're not going to hire, and well, that sound like a black name, not a white name, and all these type of things, you just can't act like these things don't exist, and the research doesn't even support it. It's clear.
Yeah.
It's clear that you can act like you made a just system, but when it doesn't account for, I think that's the word I was looking for, racism, it doesn't account for sexism, doesn't account for genderism and all these type of things, ageism and all these different ideologies, pseudoscientific ways of looking at the world, then we have problems, And
Yeah.
And even with these safe, that's the word I'm really looking for. I forgot what you call it. These these features or what have you, it still exists.
Mm-hmm.
But the one of the major things that has to happen is the way the systems that create these ideologies in our minds. It's not even always the institution itself, but the institutions lacks the ability to really safeguard against these ideologies that we know exist that are pervasive in our society and we act like they don't exist, and racism being at the core.
It is. It's, so, Doc, as we moving out of here, because we're an hour and 35, and listen, everyone that's in the chat, everyone that's looking at this, and the people who are going to see it on the playback, we appreciate you. Please like, share, subscribe to Black Box Radio. Going over to Dr. Da and Dr. Dennis Osar Wakelam. Like, share, subscribe to his joint too, because he's always bringing the analysis. So please do that for us. We want to move this video and definitely talk more about Black-centered issues. So please like, share, subscribe. But I want you to kind of surmise from henceforth after this tragic accident, not accident, tragic event that happened to Sister Massey. What do we do as a people? How do we move forward? How do we get away from the trauma that this is causing? And, give us some tools.
Well, I think one of the things that we have to do on a collective level is fight. And that's how you heal from trauma. And what I mean by that, we understand that on an individual level, if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel that you have no fight or you cannot flee, that you are likely to be traumatized. But once you take back your power, once you reframe the way, the narrative, the way you see this world, once you stop seeing this system of what some people call white supremacy as being permanent and dominant and over and all being and all powerful and all these different things, then you can begin to have agency. And it's going to take agency to heal. It's going to take I'm having some issues on this side. Queen. So pardon. Are we still live?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to take agency to heal. But it's literally going to take us to have to join up with other people on so many different levels, and I think really rewiring the narrative, because narratives are what keep us feeling trapped and traumatized. We have to recreate the narrative to be more accurate, not a false narrative, but an accurate narrative, the good, the bad, the ugly, and all the rest of it. The accurate narrative is that we are out here, we are fighting, that is not always an easy fight. We have lost people, and we will continue to lose people, but we will continue to fight and connect with those other people who are doing the work, connect with those other people who are fighting. Again, never feel like you are alone in this fight, because there's that's not a reality if you feel like you're alone, because there's so many people out here that's doing the work. Connect with these people and take it to another level. That's what I got.
So you guys heard, you have to fight. We have to continue to fight. Fight these perilous systems. And we're going to leave, but I'm going to put up with Sister Shante said. She said, Doc, this is a face-to-face conversation we can have. I struggle knowing they created this system in mental health while Black folks are not being served the correct way through it. It's a lot. It is.
All right.
So I think every system was not created to make Black people whole. So we have to realize that even the mental health system, which are DSM 17-5, whatever it is not a system to make Black people whole. is a system. It's just a system. And we have to be clear about that. When we think it's going to help and correct and get us to the point where we could be positive, it's not made for that. That's not the intention. That's what I think. All right, Doc, I think we're out of here. We kind of pulled this back, and I want to say ashe to the Massey family. She has children, her father, her family, her friends, the Black community. We are hurt by this, what happened, and we grieve with the family. We hold space for them, and we pray that it gets better. And this police officer, policing has to be better.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is
All right, guys, we up and out.
DOC.
Yeah, music.
DOC. Allow me to reintroduce myself. DOC.
Genesis Winkler.
DOC.
Genesis Winkler.
DOC. Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name. Allow me to reintroduce myself. Allow me to reintroduce myself. DOC. Allow me to reintroduce myself. Allow me